Alright everybody, I hope you're ready for another installment in this long-running audience Q&A series. It's been a while, but it's finally time to answer the latest batch of questions submitted by all of you. But before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. The way I've been doing these videos up till now is that I just let a big pile of questions accumulate and then I answer them all in one shot. Well, the pile has started to get too big for that, which is why it's been so long since the last Q&A. So what I'm going to do, in the interest of making these videos more manageable and getting more of them out quicker, is only answer 10 or 15 questions per video. I still have all of your questions, I'm going to get to all of them eventually, and you should still keep sending in new questions if there's something you'd like answered. Just know that it may or may not take a little while for a specific question to get its turn. And if you send in a big batch of questions, I'm probably going to split them up so that more people can be featured in each video. Maybe this won't stick, maybe I'll go back to packing everything into one big video, I don't know, but for now we're going to try it this way. Now there's one more thing we have to talk about. A lot of people ask me what color lantern rings I would give to different characters, and that's fine, that's fun to think about. But more and more people want me to explain which rings would go to the entire cast of a TV show or every member of a massive superhero team, and it's too much. These are actually the questions that take the longest to properly answer, and having this many of them ends up delaying the whole video. So starting right now, you'll have to pick a small handful of characters instead of asking about the entire cast. If you don't, then I'm just going to pick a handful of characters myself, and they might not be the specific characters you were the most curious about. So by all means, continue asking about what rings I'd give to the Avengers, the cast of Full House, and all your favorite Naruto characters or whatever. Just keep it reasonable. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. Trevor Smith asks, what is a previous Green Lantern status quo that you would like to see revisited, and one you hope is never brought up again? I really liked it when the Green Lantern Corps operated out of an embassy on Earth. Hal, John, Guy, Qward, Katma, Arisia, Chip, Salak, they all lived in a house together and had to somehow do their job while also navigating the complicated climate of international politics. I think a modern take on this whole idea would be really fun, especially with a different group of lanterns. Kyle, Joe, Simon, and Jessica all have the strongest unresolved ties to their lives on Earth. Iolande is royalty, so I'd love to see her take the lead when the Corps inevitably gets in trouble with one or more government. Tig is a rookie who I'm pretty sure only appeared once, and during that appearance he was lied to and humiliated by Jessica. So I fully expect him to hold a grudge that would make for some good drama. 2-6, Goran Sun, and maybe Sodom Yat would allow for a good long-term story about how different living on Earth is for an alien who looks human versus aliens who don't, and what it means for Sodom to get by because he can pass as another race. There's so much potential there, I just love thinking about it. As for a status quo that I hope never comes back, I think it'd have to be the way they used to portray Sinestro. I think Sinestro is a character who only got better as time went on, to the point that it can be kinda jarring to go back and read his old pre-2005 appearances, when he was a mustache-twirling, capital E evil supervillain. He works so much better as the hero of his own story who chose the wrong path and is too arrogant to see it. There's so much more potential for character growth and good stories with the Sinestro we have today. Masquerade Noir says, though I appreciate you answering the Pokemon questions I sent in, I was curious what Lantern Corps you would put Ash Ketchum in, since I was expecting him to be either your choice for Green or possibly Indigo or Hope. I mean, he'd have to be Green, right? That's the thing about assigning rings to the main character of a series. The qualities that make them the protagonist almost always guarantee they'd be Green, if only because they tend to have some impossible goal that they're striving for against all odds. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's predictable enough that I tend to think more about the supporting cast instead, since they're more likely to go in unexpected directions. Cosmic Caster asks, how would you feel about an infrared lantern corps? I feel like it's the most logical step in expanding the invisible spectrum. What unique powers would you grant them, and what emotions would you align with it? Infrared would be great for tracking, hunting, or uncovering secrets, maybe even make it the power of curiosity. What's ironic is that this would put it in direct opposition of the ultraviolet lanterns, who are powered by negativity that's been hidden away and repressed. The thing that's always been awkward about the ultraviolet lanterns is that ultraviolet itself is an entire spectrum of emotions instead of just one, as if all of the really negative feelings coalesce into a single really bad vibe. Although now that I think about it, maybe that's how we expand on the idea of the emotional spectrum going forward. We stop thinking about every emotion as its own category, and instead think of them as ingredients that can either stand on their own or be combined to make new things. We've got that a little bit with the white lantern, but that's not really the same thing. The white light splintered and made the other colors, so combining the different emotions to make white just feels like putting something broken back together. I'm thinking more along the lines of combining fear and rage and getting misery. Juan Bicinosoro asks, weird question, but in cartoons like Justice League or movies like Justice League Doom, why does Star Sapphire want money? It's always bothered me. The various Justice League cartoons had to fit a lot of characters into a short runtime, so those characters had to be simplified and streamlined to make sure they'd all work in the same story. Does it make sense for the brainwashed queen of an alien planet to be helping Cheetah and the Shade rob a jewelry store on Earth? No, not at all, but it allows them to put a cosmic Green Lantern villain on the Legion of Doom, so I'm fine with it. Monty wants to know, what Green Lantern stories would you like to see collected? Personally, I'd want a complete set of Tales of the Corps from the early 70s to the standalone tales from Quarterly. Also, my LanternCast journey continues. I'm at episode 201. I'm having a blast. Sorry to see you and Jim retire, but Chad and Mark are doing a great job, and it's always a good time when you and Jim show up for a cameo. Glad to hear that your journey is continuing. I know at least a few fans of this channel have started listening to the LanternCast fairly recently, and I just wanted to point out, the LanternCast just celebrated its 15th anniversary. We started that podcast on November 16th in 2008. So if you're looking for more Green Lantern content on the internet, there's a decade and a half of it waiting for you over there. But onto your actual question, I think it's a genuine shame that the Golden Age Green Lantern comics aren't easily accessible in print. They did do a pair of hardcover archive editions a long time ago, but they can be expensive and hard to find. Every now and then they'll reprint Allan Scott's first appearance, but that's about it. There is no reason that a large collection of Golden Age Green Lantern comics couldn't be reprinted in any number of more affordable and accessible formats. Beyond that, how about a series of trades or hardcovers collecting Silver Age Green Lantern that actually makes it to the end of the Silver Age? I've lost count of how many times they've started from the very beginning with Showcase number 22, only to give up after a few volumes, and then a few years later, start all over again with Showcase number 22. It's this horrible cycle where I'm no longer willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on these collections, and I won't buy them unless I know they're going to actually finish the series, but they're guaranteed to not finish the series if people don't buy enough of the early volumes. Javier D. Maldonado says, adding on to the Allan Scott not saving Batman's parents' life, it's a bit of a headcanon, but what if all the crime in Gotham got so widespread cause their hero was gone? That could certainly be the case. I guess it's really a question of how effective Allan would have been against organized crime. Could the mob build itself up under the radar without him noticing? We tend to think about bright, flashy superheroes as dealing with very explicit threats like Solomon Grundy or invading space aliens or something, and it's easy to imagine the heroes missing anything more subtle or secretive, unless that's their specific area of focus. It's why Batman and his family are so well suited for this kind of work. They exist because of this kind of crime, and developed a specific set of skills to deal with it. Or maybe Allan was on top of all that, and organized crime only got a foothold in Gotham after he left. Considering how few superheroes there were in those early days, it's interesting to think about how things may have turned out if Green Lantern never left Gotham to go to New York. Would Gotham City be a better place today? Would Batman even exist? Would all of the qualities we associate with Gotham have manifested in New York instead, without Allan there to stop it? This is the perfect concept for an Elseworld story. Figgy Jones asks, should the emotional spectrum be renamed? It seems like a bit of a misnomer to me, with some of the quote-unquote emotions not really fitting the classification. What would you rename it if you could or had to? You know, the more we talk about the emotional spectrum and the possibilities of expanding it to include more colors and emotions, the more clear it becomes that the concept of emotions is a little too limiting. Especially the way it was originally set up, with each of the 7 colors being more like a general category instead of a single emotion. Take love, for example. We've seen plenty of instances where the power wielded by the Star Sapphires represents romantic love, familial love, lust, any kind of love you can imagine, all fall under one category, one light in the spectrum. Maybe the emotional spectrum should be looked at as the tip of the iceberg, an imperfect attempt at categorizing something that we barely even begin to understand. Maybe every aspect of our thoughts and feelings can coalesce into something tangible, including emotions, but not limited to them. Things like anxiety, forgetfulness, satisfaction, pride, ambition, joy. Any strong experience that our minds can produce can become light. Maybe call it the mental spectrum, or the light of mind, or something like that. Wario Scapelli asks, what do you think of the Qwardians from the antimatter universe and all the different militias they've had over the years? The fact they made Sinestro's ring is cool, but the Thunderers always looked a little too campy for me to take them seriously, and I still don't fully understand the antimatter lanterns from Morrison's time on Green Lantern. The Weaponers of Qward should be a much bigger deal than they are. They're so good at making weapons they can even reproduce Guardian tech. And while Sinestro's original ring did have a bunch of flaws, they eventually perfected it to the point that they made the rings, batteries, and central battery of the Sinestro core. It makes perfect sense why the Weaponers would be relegated to a support class for other characters, but if they ever got serious about acting on their own, they could easily upset the balance of power in any universe they set foot into. I agree with you, the Thunderers didn't age well from a design perspective, but I don't think it would be very hard to reimagine them into something more modern that better suits a more proactive, independent Qward. Alien Arachnone wants to know, are there any lore connections in DC that you see as a missed opportunity? Kind of touched on it with the Reach and the Green Lantern Corps. Everyone always forgets that Jade has a second set of superpowers. Her mom could control plants, and Jenny Lin inherited that ability, but it's always overshadowed by her Starheart magic, to the point that a lot of people don't even know it exists. In the greater DC universe, that power holds a lot of opportunities. It could connect her to the Green, and put her in the orbit of characters like Swamp Thing. What does it mean to be connected to the Green and the Starheart at the same time? What does that make her? Is there any significance to the fact that Jade, Grundy, and Poison Ivy all have some sort of plant-based supernatural ability and all have strong ties to Gotham City? Beyond that, we have the Golden Age Green Lantern, now we have the Golden Age Red Lantern. How about a story connecting them to the Golden Age Star Sapphire? She was a villain who fought the Jay Garrick Flash a couple times in 1948, and then she came back in an issue of Brave and the Bold in the year 2000 that really only served to remind everyone that she existed, and explain how she relates to the Silver Age Star Sapphire concept, only for her character to be swept away and forgotten all over again. And considering DC's current policy of treating all existing continuity as canon, in addition to the JSA's current focus on dealing with Golden Age characters that have been lost and forgotten, not to mention all of the new Lantern stuff going on in Allan Scott's past, I think now is the perfect time to bring back the Golden Age Star Sapphire and actually do something with her character. And lastly, Caesar of Rome asks, what do you think the chances are that Teen Lantern will just get forgotten? Honestly, very small. Everything in superhero comics is cyclical and nothing goes away forever. It may take a while, but everything always comes back. Could Kelly become forgotten in the short term? Sure she could. But a few years down the line, we're going to see her again, no matter what. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And that's it. We did it. A solid set of questions I enjoyed answering, and hopefully you enjoyed listening to it. The next Q&A video will be out before you know it, so send in questions if you've got them. As always, you can leave your questions in the comment section of this video. I can't wait to see what you come up with, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make sure you don't miss the next video when it comes out. So until next time, let me just say thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.